cover, the small one, OD is about 400 millimeter by 400 millimeter, and its clean opening is about 300 millimeter by 300 millimeter. Its depth is for 30 millimeter, and its only unit weight for the 9 kilograms. And the bigger ones, the OD is about 500 millimeter by 500 millimeter, and the cleaning over is about 400 millimeter by 400 millimeter, and it's about 5 millimeter deeper than the small one, and the unit weight is about 6 kilograms more heavier than the small one. So if you need the size about the 500 millimeter by 500 millimeter, we suggest you to choose this type. And there's next manhole cover for the EN125, the C250 standard. So it can take the cars or other transport. The first kind of the manhole cover is the shape of the cycle, and the OD is about 900 millimeter, and the cover diameter is about 7 millimeter, and the clean opening is about 670 millimeter, and the depth is about 100 millimeter, and the unit weight is about 6 kilogram. And a kind smaller than the first type is OD is 100 millimeters smaller than the big one, and the weight is about 11 kilograms. And the next which its form is screen, and the cover is cycle. So the OD is about 750 millimeter by 750 millimeter. One difference between these two sides is only the depth. Due to the different road need different manhole cover with different depths. So if you need the manhole cover depth for example for 80 millimeters, you can choose the small ones. Do you want to choose the manhole cover which can use for the depth for 100 millimeter? We suggest you to choose the next one. Both of these manhole cover only have 2 kilograms difference. And the next is the loading capacity is the EN124 for the D400. The OD for the manhole cover is 650 millimeter, and the cover diameter is 540 millimeter. The clean open is about 510 millimeter. The depth is about 100 millimeter, and the unit weight is about 58 kilograms. And the next one is bigger than the first one. The OD for the big one is about diameter 815 millimeters. The cover diameter is about 635 millimeters. The clean opening is about 600 millimeters, and the tips is the same as the last one. Is also the 100 millimeters, and the unit weight is 7 kilograms heavier than the first one, about 65 kilograms. And there are three nail covers which may use in the seaport. For the first round manhole cover, its OD is about 900 millimeters, and the cover diameter is about 700 millimeters. The clean opening for the round manhole cover is about 670 millimeters, and the depth is 100 millimeters. And the unit weight for a set is about 85 kilograms. And the next is the square manhole cover, which OD is 760 millimeters, 760 millimeters. And the clean and the cover diameter is about 645 millimeter by 645 millimeter, and the clean opening is about 600 millimeter by 600 millimeter, and the depth for the small one is 100 millimeter, and the unit weight for a set is about 100 kilograms. And the next big one, the OD is about 970 millimeter by 970 millimeters. Its cover diameter is 845 millimeter by 845 millimeter. Its clean opening is about 200 bigger than the small one. It's 800 millimeter by 800 millimeter. Its depth is about 20 millimeter deep than the small one, and the weight is about 117 kilograms, about 7 kilograms heavier than the small one. And there is next square manhole cover, which is made from the two mixed up with two square manhole cover. This OD is about 1,319 millimeter by 816 millimeter. The cover diameter is about 1,300 millimeter by 675 millimeter. Its clean opening is 1,195 millimeter by 670 millimeter. The depth is about 150 millimeter. Its weight is about 430 kilogram. It is much heavier than the three type small ones I told you first. And the next is usually used in the airport or other need to overcome and give enough strength to support the airplanes or airplanes picking. Its length is about 560 millimeter, and its width width is about 460 millimeters, and its depth is 40 and 45 millimeter, and the unit weight is 40 kilograms. Here are other products about the griller covers, which may use for rainy days to help the city reduce the freeze of the rain waters. The first griller cover is its length is for 500 millimeter, and the width is about 300 millimeter, and the depth is about 7 millimeter. And the unit weight is for a set is about 6.5 kilograms, and the round griller cover is its OD is full diameter 330 millimeter. Its cover diameter is for 315 millimeter. The screen opening is for the diameter 300 millimeter. Depth is about 50 millimeter. The unit weight is about 9 kilograms. And both these two kinds of griller cover standard is EN124, A15, and A50. And the next griller cover is OD is 590 millimeter by 590 millimeter. Its cover diameter is about 60 millimeters smaller than the OD. And the clean over is about 50 millimeters smaller than the cover diameter. And the depth is as same as the last type, is also the 50 millimeter. And the weight is much heavier than the last two tons, is 30 kilograms. And if you want to some griller covers which are bigger, we suggest you to choose the OD with 630 millimeter by 465 millimeter. And its cover diameter is for 600 millimeter by 400 millimeter. Its clean opening is for 500 and it's for 580 millimeter by 380 millimeter. Its depth is about 40 millimeter, and its weight is about 6.5 kilograms lighter than the last one. And certainly, we have not only the size of products, but also many other sides. For the time reasons, we only introduce these. We can also customize various sizes of duty idle cover and the griller cover according to the sealant requirements. So that's all for our products for the manhole covers. If you want or need other information about our manhole covers, please send your inquiries for us. Thank you. So that's all for my speech. So welcome my colleague Alicia to her products for the menthol powders. Thank you for your listening.
Thanks for this explanation. So let's welcome Alicia.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. This is Alicia from EV China. Today I will introduce you about EV menthol powder. Look at the catalog. We have 4 parts. Part 1 is about nickel powder. Part 2 is about aluminium powder. Part 3 is about copper powder. Part 4 is about cobalt powder. Part 1. On the left side, we see a nickel powder, a picture of nickel powder. A menthol pigments with metallic nickel as a main component, including nickel powder and flake nickel powder. Nickel powder is distilled and purified. The flake nickel powder is made of high nickel powder in the presence of a suitable lubricant and a liquid medium. Is ground with a steel ball in a ball mill to form a flake of a suitable thickness. Let's learn the basic information of the nickel powder. First of all, color and shape of nickel powder. Gray irregular powder, easy to oxidize and most air. And part 2, use of nickel powder. Used to prepare non-ferrous alloys, high temperature resistant anti-oxidation materials. Magnetic materials can also be used as a hydrogenation catalyst for chemical reactions. And the last, packing of nickel powder. Packed with protective gas-lined plastic bags, cloth bags, and iron drums. There are the photos of nickel powder. This is a test report of nickel powder. Part 2, we will introduce you about aluminium powder. This is a picture of aluminium powder in the left side. And we will introduce the basic information of aluminum powder, commonly known as silver powder, that is silver, metallic pigment. A small amount of lubricant is added to pure aluminium form, crushed into scaly powder, and then polished. Next, the feature of aluminium powder. First of all, color of aluminium powder is flavor white mantle powder. The use of aluminium powder is paints, inks, and fireworks. Last, packing of nickel aluminium powder. Packed with protective gas, lined plastic bags, clothes bags, and iron drums. There are photos of aluminium powder. This is a testable part of aluminium powder. Part 3. There are two types of copper powders. So one is pure copper powders, nearly 100% of copper in it. And the other is brass copper powder, which has about 40% things in it. Let's look at the copper powder production process. This one is brass copper powder. And on your right hand, this one is pure copper powder. The production process of copper powder is divided into electrolytic method, atomization method, and reduction method. Now, the most used method is atomization. Let's look at the feature of copper powder. Color of copper powder is the color of pure copper powder is red. The color of copper powder, a brass copper powder, is yellow. And the use of copper powder. Copper powder is widely used in powder metallurgy, diamond tools, sealing materials, electrical copper powder, heat conduction materials, conductive materials, winding materials, hard materials, friction materials, pharmaceutical, and